So here's what we're going to talk about today. Integrating habits for a healthy mindset. That's the name of the presentation. And I think habits are for everyone. And it doesn't have to do only with performance or productivity or just becoming the best poker player of them all. It also has something to do with well-being and being mindful in your everyday lives. And when it comes to habits, it's all about a routine that is being consciously created that puts you into a very good mindset throughout the day, or that brings you to peak performance. For example, like warming up for your poker session is a really, really good habit, for example, to just get into the mindset of playing poker. But also we're going to talk about getting rid of bad habits. For example, drinking alcohol, not exercising, looking at the phone while studying poker. So all these kinds of different things are going to be a challenge. The question is, and I have to ask myself this question myself every now and then again, because I get caught up in my everyday life and it's super busy. And sometimes I'm missing out on habits that are super important for me, but I just don't have the time. So I always have to challenge myself, why am I not doing this? Because I know, although I know it is very helpful and I know it's very good for me. And also I need to challenge myself to then just keep going again. For example, when it comes to meditation, for example, sometimes days are very busy, but I still want to do it like 5 out of 7 times a week, for example. So building new habits, especially habits that are pretty hard to incorporate, takes up to 66 days. So that's like a very long time. It's more than 2 months to integrate a new habit. And we have to be aware of our normal habits to get started with. First of all, the challenges with habits. When you think about how that goes in terms of time that you put in, or how many times you actually do a good habit, how long does it take to actually see results? And I took this graph away from Atomic Habits, a book that James Clear wrote about integrating habits. And a lot of what we're going to discuss today is based on this book, because I think it's just amazing. So what we're going to see, or what we're going to think we're going to see when we start with a new habit, is what we think will happen, right? It's like super linear. It's like your winning graph, the way you want it to look. It's gonna not look like this, to be honest, right? It's not gonna be a straight linear line up to success. There's gonna be ups and downs. And also when it comes to things like hitting the gym, for example, or integrating meditation, right? Meditation right away gives a little bit of boost, but meditation also creates long-term awareness and mindfulness in your everyday life. And we're going to not see that right away. What we're going to see instead when it comes to new habits is this, right? It's going to take some time until we actually see that big success, right? It's going to take some weeks before we actually see big results when we get out of the gym, right? There's going to be some beginner's gains, of course, but when it comes to optimizing body composition, it can be quite challenging. So what we are going to see is that discrepancy between what we think will happen and what actually happens. And that discrepancy is called the valley of disappointment, right? It will take some time until we see the results that we want to see. So we have to stick to it, although we don't see the results right away. But when we think about focusing on the process instead of the result right away, we can also see that when we focus on not doing anything at all, we might see something like this. For example, if I don't hit the gym for, let's say, 3 months, for example, I will have like a pretty bad decline, and I will get worse and worse and worse and worse. And there's no way that I'm ever not going to the gym for 3 months. I hope there is, but if there is, like, something bad is going on, I would see a 1% decline on a daily basis, and you will see me decline, and my performance is going to go lower. Also, my mood is going to be lower, etc., etc., etc. I don't want to go into it too much right now. But on the other hand, let's say if there's a habit that I'm doing on a daily basis that gets me better, for example, like hitting the gym. Like you can hit the gym every day. I don't do it. I do like 4 to 5 sessions a week. You're going to see something like this. There's going to be a 1% improvement on a daily basis. So if you actually put in the hours, also when it comes to studying poker, for example, on a daily basis, you're not going to see it in your graph right away. It's like not that your big blinds over 100 or your winning graph is going to be increasing right away. It will take some time until you actually see some success, and that can be years or multiple years or just 1 year. All depends on the variance of the game, of course, but overall it means putting in a study session on a daily basis is not going to show results right away, but throughout the time that you put it in over and over and over again, you will actually start seeing some results. And 1% worse every day for 1 year means, yeah, basically zero. So slightly above zero, obviously. But on the other hand, if you get 1% better every day for 1 year, it's the complete crazy opposite, like you get from 1 to 38. So yeah, that's just an example, but I want to make sure that you understand it's all about consistency and bringing in those habits that will make you a better human, a better poker player, or just a happier person. So that's why we are talking about this. So how can we actually make this happen? And the thing is, I see a lot of people that I work with, they focus a lot on the thing that you can see here in the top, which is the outcome. So I want to be the best player, for example, or I want to get rid of that one health issue that I have for multiple years, or I want to have a six-pack, right? The thing is, though, we can also focus on the processes, which is also very important. So there's somebody in the waiting room. Okay, I think Pavel took care. Good job. And there's more people joining. Hello, hello. So we can also focus on the processes. So let's take the example of going to the gym. We can say, okay, the outcome is I want to look ripped. I want to be shredded AF, and I want to look like, I don't know, who looks shredded, Rich Froning, if you're into CrossFit, for example. We can also focus on the processes, going to CrossFit class every day or hitting the gym every day. But the biggest thing or the biggest impact that we can have is focusing on our identity. And that is changing our beliefs and our worldviews. Who am I, or who would I like to be? Am I a healthy person? Am I a focused person? Am I somebody who is distracted? Am I somebody who's not putting in the hours? And the biggest example that I always take there, that when it comes to changing your identity, is, for example, smoking, right? That's also what James Clear said in his book, and I think it's a great example. When we look at smoking and you want to quit smoking, there's a difference between, on the one hand, I'm trying to quit smoking when somebody offers you a cigarette, or no, sorry, I don't smoke, right? If you want to quit smoking, don't say, oh shit, I'm trying to quit smoking, but I'm not actually sure, but no, I'm non-smoker, I'm not smoking, that's it, right? And it's the same thing with other habits as well. So if you want to be healthier and you want to put in the hours in terms of becoming healthy, you have to think about identifying yourself as a healthy person. Then what do healthy people do? They focus on processes that keep them healthy, going to the gym, eating well, optimizing their social life, like having a good social circle, optimizing sleep, stress management, etc., etc., etc. So if we just take these examples, those are the processes, and they are focusing on themselves, on their identity. Then they create working processes that actually put them in a healthy state. And they don't focus on the outcome at all. They're just healthy, right? If you have like a certain goal that you want to work to, like running a marathon, or I don't know, preparing for bodybuilding or whatever, that makes sense. But if it's just integrating a generally good and healthy habit, focus on yourself and on your identity. And that can work the other way as well. So people can also say, oh, I'm not a morning person, but that's just bringing them even more into the mindset of them not being a morning person, for example, because they're super grumpy in the morning because they think they're not a morning person. So instead of focusing on this, focusing on the outcome, then the process, and then the identity, think about from the inside out, Then identity first, that creates processes that make sense, and then you will see outcomes. So decide what person you would like to be, and then prove it to yourself with small wins. Think about that identity, and then focus on what kind of processes a person who is healthy or a person who is a successful poker player, for example, has in their everyday lives. So that's just something that we can start with. Now, let's take 1 or 2 minutes for the next task. I bet you all joined because there's a certain good or bad habit that you're struggling with. Either you want to integrate a good habit, or maybe you have a bad habit that you would like to get rid of. Let's take 1 minute, or let's say 2 minutes, write it down either on a piece of paper, and then going to you did that. Also think about what kind of person is the person who performs that habit that you think is positive on a daily basis. So you can now or later on think about different skill sets, mindsets, and also think about what kind of person avoids the bad habit. So are they super strict? Are they super successful? Are they just like lucky, or did they just create good habits or whatever? Think about just different adjectives for that. Like, just think about also the positive one. Maybe you know somebody who's very good with a habit that you have been struggling with, and then also write down some things that basically describe them really well. Okay, but you not all can do that later on. So next thing we're gonna do, or before the next thing we can do, remember, very successful people, they have discipline, right? For sure they have discipline, but they also set up their environment for a lot of success. So that's the big difference, right? They are focused because they are undistracted by everything else. They create their environment in a way that doesn't let them distract. So for example, when I create a presentation in an optimal world, I would always turn off my phone. I would also always turn off any notifications on my computer, and I just simply would work for 90 minutes. I'm saying in an optimal world because it also sometimes doesn't happen because I sometimes have to be on my phone. But more of the times that I do deep work, for example, I try to not let myself get distracted, obviously. And therefore, I can be a more successful person. I can work in a more focused manner. What are habits? So James Clear says habits are simply reliable solutions for recurring problems in our environments. And we have to think about how do these habits actually work, because we have to set up our environment. That's something that I've been saying over and over again. So no matter if it's a good habit or a bad habit, first of all, there's a cue. And I'm taking away that text message phone example when it comes to deep work now. First of all, there's a cue. There's a new text message, the phone vibrates, and then this creates craving, right? It's right next to me on my desk, and I'm actually working, and I want to learn the contents of the text message. And then there's a response. I'm grabbing my phone, like it's simply not working without my conscious mind being involved. Is something that almost happened subconsciously because I created that very negative effect. So there's a phone ringing, I look at the phone and I want to know the contents, and I grab my phone right away, and then yes, nice dopamine rush. I satisfy my cravings by reading the message, and now the really bad stuff happens. If that happens over and over and over and over and over again, there's gonna be something connected, right? There's phone, there's craving, there's satisfaction. And now if I don't put that phone away, I'm going to be in a very bad spot if I want to actually learn something new, look at pre-flop solves, for example, etc., etc. It's going to get me distracted all the time. Same thing with the morning, for example. If the first thing I do in the morning, I don't do that, is looking at my phone, I'm going to start by reacting. And I don't want to do that, so I try to have my phone in flight mode, and the first thing I do is meditate on my own, or the day before, I put my phone into flight mode, but first I download the meditation that I'm going to do the next day. So it's super easy for me to just open up the meditation, do it in the morning. And then after I've done my morning routine, for example, I'm actually starting to look at my phone and see if there's any important message going on. So think about what kind of person doesn't do that. Probably the kind of person who doesn't let themselves get distracted and works on a project in a focused manner. So solution, eliminate the queue. So deep work, for example, I try to have an optimal setup almost all of the time. And I do that by just turning off my email, I turn off Discord, and I put my phone away, for example. If I don't want to eat sugar, for example, the best thing to do is don't have sugar at home or don't go to places where sugar is being there all the time. So different phone in a different room during deep work time, just as an example. There's obviously differences, right? If you have like another habit, that's going to be a different solution. So one thing that you can do, and think about your morning routine right now and think about how that usually works, right? So it could be something that looks like this. You wake up in the morning, turn off your alarm, you check your phone, you go to the bathroom, you weigh yourself, you take a shower, brush your teeth, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So let's look at all these different habits that are just working subconsciously. You wake up, do your thing, etc., etc. But you can also think about what of these things are actually positive and what of those things are actually negative. Waking up. I don't know why I didn't put waking up green. It's like, I think it's amazing waking up in the morning. It could be green. Turning off the alarm also makes sense. And then checking my phone is obviously probably not something you want to do 5 minutes or 2 minutes after you've woken up. So that's actually a red one, etc., etc. And then there's some white and then there's some green. So you can think about replacing that checking my phone with 5 minutes of meditation. And then you can add up looking at your phone right at making a cup of coffee. So after you went through your morning routine, and then meditation, for example, is something very positive that you integrate right after you've been waking up, or you actually put it in there sometime later, for example, after taking a shower. That's what I usually do, for example. And I feel a lot better when actually meditating then. And then you can also think about making it obvious. So you can stack your habits. So for example, if we take the meditation example, I will meditate at 9 a.m. on my meditation pillow, or if we stack the habit right away, so as it was in the scorecard, after I turn off my alarm, I will meditate on my meditation pillow. And that's something you can write down and something you can implement right away. And then you have to design your environment, and that's what I've been explaining already. Put your phone into flight mode, meditation app opened, and then a particular place created for meditation. So for example, I always meditate on the couch right there, and there's somebody else joining. And that's basically what happens. So I take my phone off the charger, it's in flight mode, I downloaded it already, and then I just start. And then after a couple of minutes later, I'll be looking at my phone and see if there's anything important going on. But other than that, not at all. So let's think about the morning routine, and I will give you guys another 2 to 3 minutes now. Create a habit scorecard, either now on your computer or on a piece of paper, and then line out the positive and negative habits, and then redesign it with the negative habit. Integrate the positive habit that you would like to incorporate. So if there's something like looking at the phone there and you would like to have it later in your everyday life or in your morning routine, now that's the chance to actually get work. So think about that scorecard, and it all comes down to being conscious in your morning, and being conscious and acting instead of reacting to some message, for example, will put you in a way better mindset throughout the day. And that's why morning routines, I believe, are crucial. You don't have to do like all the crazy shit, like doing half an hour meditation, blah, 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 blah. No, it's just like maybe 10 to 15 minutes that will determine how you feel in the morning, right? So let's go 2 to 3 minutes, and I will put task 3 in there now. I'd love to go to bed earlier. I can imagine. You're wearing too many hats. Task 3. So maybe for example, I love to go to bed early. Maybe you can think about, okay, I don't want to finish my work day later than 6 p.m. for example. Start early, do some training in between, finish at 6, be as focused as possible, spend some time with the family, be in bed earlier, and then more energy the next day, more focus. So that all adds up, right? That's a really, really good example as well. Like you don't want to get caught up in some crazy Netflix series. Yes, you can do some Netflix to wind down and relax, I'm sure, but yeah, we know it can go the other way as well, where it actually brings your sleep into a very bad spot. Right. So let's get started. If you haven't finished now, you can obviously finish after the presentation or make it a task to do it, because I think it's super helpful. Sometimes everyday life doesn't look the same and there's going to be challenges for sure. Sometimes you have to get up early, sometimes you can sleep in a bit, although I wouldn't recommend like mixing it up too much. But yeah, mornings and days in general can be different, but for the things that happen most of the time, you can think about that scorecard in a very positive manner. So cool. Now that we've finished off that task, we can think about breaking bad habits. So reduce or eliminate the exposure to the cue is what we want to do. So example again, if I want to let go of sugar for a month or so, or for 2 months or forever, the best thing you can do is not have sugar at home. Don't go to restaurants where there's a lot of sugar involved. Don't go to the supermarket when you're hungry. So make sure you're filled with good nutrition right before you're going to the supermarket, for example. That's something you can do. When it comes to social media, distraction, and still being able to work, you can think about something like side block or limiting the maximum of time for the app, or actually deleting the app. When it comes to social media, that's a challenge of mine as well. It's very, very distracting, and it also takes away a lot of our focus. So what we want to do instead of is actually think about how much value does Instagram or whatever kind of social media platform you're using actually bring into your everyday lives, or it is actually something that makes your life worse, right? There's people being in the Bahamas, playing poker, there's people being on vacation all the time and you're there working, putting in the hours. Like it can also bring you in a somewhat negative mindset. Of course, there's good content out there that one can consume and also learn something from. But overall, for me, like the takeaway is always like, yeah, if I want to use it, I want to use it for something useful, like exchanging with people, for example, that I don't have on WhatsApp, on Discord, for example. But I don't want to be distracted the whole time. So I set a maximum of time for the app, or I just sometimes delete the app completely, especially during weeks where there's a lot of work, I want to do a lot of deep stuff. So yeah, be mindful about this. Or when it comes to your computer, you can use an app called SideBlock or something like this that just blocks it away. I don't know, like 20 years ago, it probably was like Facebook that you wanted to block. Now it's YouTube or something. And you can also do that only for deep work times, for example. So you can just block it while you are working, and that will make it way easier for you to actually keep on working. Yes. And if you are still exposed, you can take some deep breaths and then check in with your identity. I think that's a huge thing as well that you can do. It sounds a bit weird, but also like before grabbing that piece of sugar out of that cupboard or that piece of sweet out of that cupboard, just because you're craving for it, take a break, take a deep breath and think about, am I the kind of person who just eats sugar out of boredom? No, probably not. So I'm not going to fucking eat it. And that way you can also become better at neglecting those bad habits. When it comes to the positive things, we want to make them attractive. So let's say after I get my morning coffee, I would say one thing that I'm grateful for that happened yesterday. Gratefulness is a really, really nice tool and habit that I think is very positive for the mindset. I usually do it every morning. I have a book for it, where I write in it, where I put them in 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then after I say one thing I'm grateful for, there's going to be a reward, which could be I will read the news, or I will look at WhatsApp or whatever. Probably not good to put in, okay, after I say something I'm grateful for, I will drink some whiskey. That would be over the top. Like maybe something that is not damaging you too much, and something that also creates like a positive reward that keeps you into that very positive habit. Easiest thing to do is also to surround yourself with like-minded people. So that looks like a bit weird and a bit too crazy nature, but actually looks really nice. If you want to be a person who meditates more, think about finding people who are willing to do the same thing, maybe who are meditating together once a week, or find an accountability WhatsApp group with people who are meditating on a constant basis. For example, like surrounding yourself with people who are successful, and you want to be successful in poker as well, for example, is very much recommended. And also, yeah, people who are sporty, if you want to get more into sports, for example, it makes a bunch of sense as well. For the negative things, you want to make them very, very unattractive. And that you can do by listing negative consequences of the bad habits that you are performing. For example, and you can look at the Huberman lab, for example, when it comes to smoking or alcohol. Research shows that smoking increases the risk of developing lung cancer by XYZ%. And having notifications on my phone turned on distracts me and thereby slows down my long-term success. So if I want to be a better poker player and I want to put in the hours over and over and over again, the more undistracted work and studying I can get done will determine how good of a poker player I am going to be, or how I can possibly be. And therefore, turning the notifications off will give you a very good boost for your productivity and also for your overall success. So those are just some things that you can think about. If you want to drink less alcohol, yeah, just listen to that 3-hour Huberman Lab podcast episode where he talks about all the negative consequences of alcohol. And spoiler alert, there are no positive effects. So if you want to drink less, listen to that episode. I think it's a great one. So just an example. Task number 3, just for the bundling, write down when and after what other bit of your scorecard, so we get back to that morning routine that we've talked about, you would like to perform the positive habit, and write down what you can possibly reward yourself with after performing that habit. And then if there's something bad you have in mind, write down 3 possibilities that will help you get rid of your bad habit. So we want to think about something that even gets even further away from that bad habit. I will give you guys 2 to 3 minutes for that. And yes, I will post task 3 now into Discord, and you can then check it out. Well, I posted task 3 twice. I just advanced to level 1. Just take your time. Oh, it's probably better if you guys can still see it. Okay, 1 more minute. Take your time, guys. And again, if you don't finish now, it's all right. Just do it later or after the webinar. Half a minute. Yes. More checks coming in. All right. So let's get started again. Again, if you haven't finished, don't mind it. Just finish after the session or watch the recording. We also want to make it easy for ourselves. And that means, for example, especially for habits that are challenging and they take a lot of willpower, we want to think about making things super easy. When we think about the level of automaticity of certain habits, there's a certain line that we want to get past. The more we do things, the more automaticity comes. So if we are more strict and we do things more on a constant basis, doing meditation every day, eating sugar, not eating sugar every day, for example, it gets easier and easier and easier. So if you think about spot A on the chart, you still need a good amount of effort and concentration in order to perform the task. Let's say you started meditating and it's the 5th day. Gets easier, but still have to look into it, and it still challenges you to actually sit down and meditate. And then B is the next spot. It gets easier, but it still requires some focus and concentration. So you're almost there. And C is actually the part where it gets automatic, right? You wake up, you know, okay, I created this, I opened up the app and I downloaded the meditation at night. I'm going to sit down. It's just like brushing your teeth in the morning. You get up, take a shower, pee, and then brush your teeth, right? Because that's just what you do. And that's actually the so-called habit line. It's just something that happens automatically. How can we do this? We want to make things easy for us. The very easy thing we can do is, James Clear describes this as the 2-minute rule. If you want to get started with getting fitter, just put on your running shoes. Like, that's it, right? Put on your running shoes and yeah, don't walk around with your running shoes at home, but maybe just go outside and think about, okay, 2 minutes, I can just go for a walk for 2 minutes. You can write 1 sentence if you want to write a book, for example. Just open up the document, write 1 sentence. If you want to become a better poker player, you can look at one of your big blind pre-flop spots and compare the data from poker.academy to your spot. You can still make it easier by walking 10 minutes or writing 1 paragraph, so maybe like 100 to 200 words. That's not a lot. You can analyze 5 big blind defense spots, and then compare the data to pre-flop academy, for example. Then also do something moderate. You can walk 10K steps of walking or running. You can write 1,000 words, etc., etc. That bell is super annoying, but I'm not gonna answer it. And then you can also analyze 5 big blind pre-flop spots, and you can compare the data and then discuss your takeaways on Discord. And then we can do harder, and we can also do very hard. Like, just there's only so many things that you can do, and the thing is to stay consistently on it, even on a day that you're super demotivated, where you don't want to do anything. Put on your running shoes, write 1 sentence, just open it up. The thing is, we don't break the chain of that accumulating habits that keep on coming. And if we get started with something that is super easy, maybe we actually do something more, right? If we have the time to write another couple of sentences, we will also write another couple of sentences. And then we didn't break the chain of those accumulating days over and over and over. And then we most likely will do something more. So the key is to get started over and over again. And when it comes to breaking bad habits, we also want to increase the number of steps between us and our bad habits. So I already talked about this. I'm just briefly talking about it now. If you're craving for sugar, try to not have sugar at home, and don't go grocery shopping on an empty stomach, or don't go to, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if there's anything like that in my city, but like, I don't go to the ice cream store or whatever. If I'm procrastinating on social media, which happens to me, yes, it happens, I could have a friend reset my password and every week, and only access it once a week, for example. And then he resets my password again. That's something that is really, really crazy, but it actually works. Delete the app or use a restriction app. That's also something that you can do. And I think restriction apps are super nice. Just deleting the app. If you don't use it, don't do it, right? Still, people are going to be able to reach out to you, although you don't have Instagram, right? For the people that are in your social circle that are actually important for you, they are going to be able to get in touch with you. Last task, write down the minimum you can see yourself doing every day in order to get started, at least 2 minutes. So if you've now written down something very positive, like a good habit, now you can actually think about what's the minimum I see myself doing on a daily basis. And then write down possibilities that make it even more difficult for you to access the bad habit. Think about that sugar example, think about that going to sleep earlier example, or like not going to sleep so late example. I think those are pretty good examples, or whatever challenge you have in your life. So let's give it 2 minutes and see you guys in 2 minutes. My girlfriend's gonna be mad at me for not getting the package. I think she'll be fine, but I won't be. So I'm already finished. I'm going to put that up one more time. This should be something that goes a bit quicker, so we'll do 30 more seconds. Okay, so let's get into the last bit of content. Now you should have like a very good amount of things that you can do in order for you to integrate a positive habit and also negative habits, or getting rid of negative habits. So what we can do is also make things satisfying. And the picture on the right is what you can see on a Google sheet that I use with some of my clients. That is something that is very helpful to track habits. And you can do it like this. It's very, very cool if you're coaching somebody and they put it into the sheet and then you can discuss it. Something you can also do is using a whiteboard, using a piece of paper or whatever. And I'm going to show you what I'm using in a minute. So you can reward yourself for positive behavior, obviously. So make it satisfying. That's what we talked about. And also, when it comes to those tracking possibilities, you can also think about not missing twice. So if you missed out the day of your meditation, yes, okay, but make sure there's not the day afterwards that you're also not doing it. Kick it off right away again, get back into that habit, never miss twice. And also you are going to see like a lot of progress when you actually do it like with a tracking sheet. So what I do, and now you can make sure you can laugh about my handwriting. That's my whiteboard that I took a photo of right before the presentation, because that's what I do. I look at it on a weekly basis. There's some German on there, but it's some English. But what I do is I use my whiteboard on Sundays. And I think about, okay, what are the habits that I do in the morning? And that's mindfulness and mobility. And you see, it's been a challenging week, right? I didn't do it all the time. I had two mindfulness sessions, only Wednesday and Friday, but the rest of the week was just super full. And there's no excuse. I still could have done it, but yes, it was very challenging. DW is deep work. So Tuesday and Thursday, some really good deep work slots. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, are more challenging. I only get one one slot of deep work in. So that's like a slot of 60 to 90 minutes. Then there's household in Germany. So I did a bunch of that, and I just want to make sure I get it in almost every day. That's also a challenge for me because yeah, it's busy, but I still want to live in a very cool environment. And then there's also sports training. Okay, Wednesday was off day. Other than that, I did strength training, CrossFit, and also supplements, right? With those health promoting supplements, I want to be aware, oh, did I actually take it? And I just tick it off when I took it. So I'm actually making sure that I'm taking that shit that is actually making me more healthy and more productive. So that's something you can do. And I will put in one more piece of content that I think is helpful. If you have a big long-term goal that almost demotivates you because it's such a big goal, you can break it down into midterm milestones and then short-term processes. So I want to give you one example of that. I have been working with a client now for 10 weeks, and he's a friend of mine, and he wanted to lose weight, and he said, man, I need your consultation. So I said, yeah, let's fucking go. And he said, I want to lose 12 kilos in 12 weeks, basically. So basically right before Christmas, he wanted to be at the goal. So what we did, okay, we have this big goal, like losing 12 kilos. He's a big guy. He went down from 125 kilos. He's also very tall, but like still overweight, and he wanted to go down. We said, okay, let's break it down. Where do we want to be in 4 weeks from now? And if we say, okay, realistically, we can lose about a kilo on a weekly basis. That's totally realistic. It's not a big stretch. You can obviously do that. And then we take it from that goal. So I don't want to be too goal oriented, but he had this goal, and then think about those processes. And then basically we said, okay, we check in on a weekly basis. You do your 2 strength sessions, you do the diary of your nutrition, so we actually know what you're eating, and you think about optimizing your sleep, getting some good rest. It also helps with losing weight, and how you can manage your stress in a better way. So we have that big goal. We broke it down into these smaller milestones, but in our everyday lives, we don't focus on the success or on the big goal every day, but instead we focus on what has to be done in order to get to the goal. And there was a big mindset shift for him as well. Like, yeah, I had this big goal if I want to look slim and I want to feel good in my body. Yes, but yes, first of all, we need to figure out how we can change your mindset into a healthy person's mindset. And he went from drinking alcohol after training or on a weekly basis to having like 2 beers in the last 10 weeks. And he's like, I don't miss anything. I'm feeling fucking great. And he actually lost now, I think he's down 15 or 16 kilos already. And so he's way ahead of that goal. And he just focused on the processes. He dropped weight. He put on some muscle. So we didn't look at the body composition, which could have shown like an even bigger difference when it comes to body fat percentage. But he just focused on doing the shit on a daily basis, getting those workouts in, eating healthily. And yes, he had some cheat meals, but he was very successful with it. And now he just feels freaking good because he can be very proud of himself. And those habits that he created throughout the last 8 weeks or 10 weeks, I don't think they're ever going away again, because now he identifies himself like a healthy person. So last slide. For the bad things, make things unsatisfying. So if you have something that you're unable to get rid of, you can make a contract with yourself and or others. So if I drink alcohol, I'm going to pay you 100 euros, for example. And I don't want to pay 100 euros by drinking 1 glass of beer, for example. So that's the hard stuff, but I think it's actually very powerful. If you're crazy rich, money is maybe not the solution, but maybe just cooking for somebody or something like this. Although you can still do it afterwards, of course. Like think about something that has a negative consequence, and you can actually make a contract actually and talk about it with somebody and have them and you sign it. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time for questions. questions. You can also use Discord, obviously, and the ongoing webinar chat. I was loving pen and paper. Yes, for me also, like for all these habits and positive things, handwriting is way cooler, I believe. Like Google Sheets are nice for training and tracking training, but for my everyday habits, for example, I'm way better standing in front of a whiteboard or just writing down without a distraction. Alrighty. I give it 1 or 2 more minutes for questions. If you guys any questions, maybe something that you've been challenging with or that challenged you, just bring it out there now. You can also text me on Discord after the webinar. I can give you some feedback on that as well. But other than that, if there's nothing coming up now, let's go over to the last slide. Oopsie, no, that's not the last slide, that's the first slide. Oops. I'm a professional, I promise. All right, so last slide is this one. Pre-Flop Academy has Black Friday, and with the code Black Friday 25, you get 25% off the yearly subscription, which is really nice. And added to that, there's a 30-minute one-on-one personal consultation. I'm not sure with who, but I hope it's with So6 or with Pavel. But they have so many crushers on the team. So for everyone who's interested, be aware of that. And yeah, that's how I'm finishing this presentation, how I'm finishing this webinar. Let me know if there's anything on your mind. Also, if there's something you didn't want to share right there, just add me as a friend on Discord and I will give you some feedback if that's challenging you. So happy to, if you want to reach out. And yeah, that's it. See you soon, guys. Bye-bye.